Shalom. This week's Sedra is Sedra Mishpatim. This week's Torah portion begins an entirely new part of the Torah, civil law. Other belief systems limit their religious laws and teachings to religious law and don't touch upon civil law. God wrote the Torah to be an all-encompassing guide to life, including civil law. One of the civil laws that have to do with debts and servitude, and that's the first topic of this week's Torah portion, and it teaches us an important lesson on all aspects of life. The Torah portion begins, when you acquire a Jewish servant, that person shall serve 6 years, and shall go free in the 7th year without payment. In his commentary to the mitzvah of the Jewish servant, Ramban wrote that God began the first civil law of the Torah with the subject of a Jewish servant because the liberation of the servant in the 7th year contains a remembrance of the departure from Egypt, which is mentioned in the first commandment of the Torah. It also contains a remembrance of the creation, for the 7th year signals to a servant a complete rest from the work of his master, just as the 7th day of the week does. Therefore, the Ramban says, this mitzvah deserved to be mentioned first because of its extreme importance, alluding, as it does, to great things in the process of creation. The Talmud quoted a teaching of our sages about the proper treatment of a Jewish servant. We read in the Talmud, the sages taught, the Torah included the following verse about the Jewish servant. It said, because the servant fares well with the master, which teaches that a servant should be treated as the master's equal in food, meaning that the servant's food must be of the same quality as the master's food and with the master's drink. The verse teaches that there shouldn't be a situation in which the master eats fine bread and the servant eats inferior bread. There shouldn't be a situation where the master drinks fine wine and the servant drinks inferior wine. There shouldn't be a situation in which the master sleeps comfortably on bedding made from soft sheets and the servant sleeps on straw. From here, the sages stated, anyone who acquires a Jewish servant is considered like one who actually acquires a master for himself, because he has to be careful that the servant's living conditions are equal to his own. In his commentary on the statement in the Talmud that anyone who acquires a Jewish servant is like someone who has acquired a master for himself, the Meiri wrote that this statement seemed to be a mitzvah according to the Gaonim. It is a derech eretz issue. The Meiri and the Gaonim didn't think that the master really had to treat his servant like a master, going above and beyond, and treating their servant like a master isn't obligatory to them, but rather a higher level of behavior, derech eretz. What's the difference between whether this teaching in the Talmud is obligatory or not? The debate itself highlights the way every Jew is required to treat each other. Even if treating a slave with derech eretz isn't obligatory, it shows that even if the person is your servant, they're still a person, and you must treat them with derech eretz. All the more so everybody else in life. The first of the civil laws God addresses in this week's Torah portion is the Jewish servant, not because the Jewish servant's laws are so important, they're rarely relevant, but because of the larger lesson it teaches of derech eretz and how far we must go to treat other people properly. We must give them what we feel we ourselves deserve. That is an incredibly important lesson. Shabbat Shalom.